Hey guys, race 9 on Saturday at Caulfield is the Caulfield Cup, 2,400 meters, $5 million race. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to run through and break down how I go through and analyze each one of these runners. And I also want to take the opportunity to go through some strategies when analyzing runners. And we're going to go through why each horse can either win or can't win. And this is one of the first things I do when analyzing a race is I'm looking to rule out horses that I don't think can win the race. And after doing that, I'm looking for one, two, or three selections left that then I can compare those runners. If I go through a race and I've got five, six, seven, eight genuine winning chances that I can't rule out, then it becomes a no-bet race for me. If you apply this principle, then you're going to be able to find a lot more races that you can have better bets in, and also find races where you can then be like, okay, no, I'm not going to bet into this race. There's too many chances. I'm going to save my stake for a better betting opportunity, not just force a bet into every race. Because if you're somebody who bets into every single race, then it's very, very difficult to be profitable. If you're somebody who backs multiple horses in every single race, then it's very difficult to be profitable. The only reason, like last week, we ticked over 1,400 units profit in the racing show. That's over the past 3 years, which you can see on the website right here, the month by month results. The reason we're able to do that is because we identify races that we want to bet into where all those factors align. We don't just force bet into a race just because, it's race one or it's the last race, we're going to increase our stake. And we don't even do that because we bet early. So for example, for Saturday racing, so for this Saturday, all the bets that I'm having are going to be posted in the racing show on Friday afternoon, like they are every week. So then all the members have Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday morning until race time to put those bets on. And a lot of people put the bets on early. All the results are based off the early prices, but you can also monitor the markets and look for opportunities to bet later and secure a better price on those particular selections. But we're not waiting until the last race and realizing that, oh, damn, we need to have a big bet and a win on this race so we can be profitable for the day. Like, we never worry about that whatsoever. Like, a good example is I posted a video to my Instagram stories earlier this week talking about last Saturday's races. And last Saturday, we started off with an early winner in Alabama State, and we'd had one win, one loss from the first two races. And then we went on a run from a number of horses in a row losing. And in that situation, the way a lot of people bet, they get carried away with the emotion. Discipline just like flies out the window, and then they, start putting extra bets on. They're looking at, okay, whatever race is coming up in 2 minutes, I'm going to bet into that race. Then their staking flies out the window, and they're putting more on each selection because like, well, I need this to win because I'm down. I haven't had a winner for a while. If I put more on this, that'll at least get back, what I'm down from those previous races. Or they start looking through the field like this and looking just at the odds column and being like, okay, well, this one's $12. If I put 100 on that, I'll get 1,200 back, or if I put, 100 on this $21 shot, then I'm going to make 2 grand. Okay, that'll just solve all my problems. And then they start betting into that. They just back that run up purely based off the odds. And it's very, very rare that that's going to come off as a solution. So you never want to stake more, focus on the odds and the payouts to try and get back. And just overall, you don't want to be emotional about your betting. And that's one thing I like really help everyone in the racing show, and hopefully watching this on YouTube, instill this not betting emotionally. Like, the betting companies want you to bet emotionally. They want you to be, in this kind of somewhat excited but somewhat panic state of needing a winner, needing to win more, because that's how they know they're going to get you. And that little catchphrase that they say at the end, where chances are you're about to lose, that's because the reality is that 99%, it's probably even into the 99.5% of people lose on a consistent basis. Like, yes, everyone has days where they're winning here and there, and they like to tell you about that, but you need to be able to consistently win week after week, month after month. And, a week here and there where you're down, like, if you look at the results, you'll see that we scroll down here to the weekly results. Yes, there's some weeks where, that week we lost 5 units. That week we lost 10 units. This week we lost 18 units. And our worst ever week, we lost 21 units. But as you can see, of these weeks, there's about 150 100-ish, just over 150 off these weeks in there. They're few and far between. Like when you have, how many is this? 7, 8 straight winning weeks, you can afford one losing week to then have another 12-ish winning weeks in a row before your next losing week. And there's another big run there. Had a few more losing weeks in a smaller period here, but they are few and far between. Over the past 12 weeks, we've only had 2 weeks we've been in the negative, 1.3 units that week, and 2 units that week. So you need them to be few and far between, but you need your monthly results, which you can see here, where 34 of the 36 months we've been doing this have been profitable, with only the 2 calendar months being in the negatives. That's how you consistently win. That's how you consistently make profits doing this. And it all comes back to how you go through and put on and determine which horse you want to back in a particular race. That's why I want to do this video and show you how you can break down a race and determine which runner to back, or whether you don't bet at all in a particular race. So with the Caulfield Cup, 2,400 meters, $5 million prize money, $3 million for first place. It's over 2,400 meters. So the first thing you want to do is come over and just remind yourself, if you don't just automatically remember, where the starting position is. So for the 2,400 meters at Caulfield, they start at the end of the home straight. So they have a nice straight run for about 300 meters before they get to the bend that comes out of the home straight. So jockeys from those wide draws have about 300 meters to establish their position or avoid being caught 3 wide through that bend. And then it is definitely a little bit tricky from there, because they only have another short run along the side here before they get onto another fairly long bend. So barriers definitely are important, and how the horses jump. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. Currently, Caulfield is rated a good 4. However, there is rain around on Thursday and also rain around on Friday leading up to the meeting. That rain is predicted to stop around 9 a.m. on race morning. Most likely, we're going to be well into the soft range. If there is more rain than is expected on Saturday, then it could definitely push the track into a heavy rating. So you want to be looking for horses that perform their best with that bit of give in the ground, and they have the rail out 3 meters. You can go back through and look at like the last time the rail was out, 3 meters or similar. The most recent time it was in a similar position to the 3-meter one was when it was out 4 meters. When it was in that spot, it did play a touch on speed early and also late in the day, and those are definitely tempo dependent, but you could make ground out wide. So the track did play pretty fair, and I'm expecting it to on Saturday. Obviously, with rain on the day, that is the one thing that can really throw a spanner into the works. So just have to be that touch cautious of this. With Caulfield, the Caulfield Cup being race 9, it's well into the day. We've got 8 races prior to really establish, if there is any advantageous position. Obviously, with the way that I send out what I'm betting to everyone the day prior, we don't get to take advantage of these situations where, leaders are dominant, or you need to be out wide, and wide barriers are a huge advantage in, shoot races, those kind of things. But obviously we make our best assessment based off of that, and then everyone can adjust like throughout the day if needed, but it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference because of the factors that we go through prior. Other thing is just getting a general idea of the speed map. There's going to be 18 runners in this race, so there are still a few emergencies to come out. Drawn lowest is Fancy Man, who's currently first emergency. So that could bring a number of runners in a touch closer. The other 2 emergencies, firstly, Francesco Guardi and Berkshire Breeze, both drawn barrier 11 and wider. So shouldn't have too much of an impact when likely those 3 runners come out of the race. Does look like it's going to be a fairly fast run Caulfield Cup. Whenever you see pace low and also pace wide on the map here, generally that sets it up to be an average, at least, or above average tempo. And with that kind of tempo predicted in this race, and also a rain-affected track, you want horses that are going to run out a strong 2,400 meters in this kind of situation. Any that are a question mark or a concern at running out the distance definitely could be a touch exposed in this race. We're going to run through each runner one by one, go through the key factors for them. So this is how you go through and do your research process. Remembering, we're looking to rule out runners as horses that we don't think can win. So firstly, number 1, Carlapore has the blinkers on for the first time, which is interesting. It's currently an $81 shot for this race. Comes into this race fourth up this preparation. First up was in a group 3 at Randwick over the 2000 when running fourth. Then in a group 3 at Randwick over 2000 when running eighth. And then last start at Caulfield last Saturday when sixth behind Denied Knowledge. I was beaten 9 lengths on that occasion. On the quick backup, blinkers on. Definitely positives. Goes up to the 2400 meters where it has won over this distance. And the win that it did have over the 2400, it did win the Tancred back in March this year, which is this run here at Rosehill, beating more felons that day. So it does have a Group 1 win over this distance, but just isn't racing all that well and has a very big margin to overturn now on Denied Knowledge from last start. Only carries 55 kilos, so you don't often get a 55 kilo top weight in the Caulfield Cup, so it's definitely a low weights race. So it is suited getting down to the 55 kilos, but very difficult to see it overcoming a 9 length margin on the your Denied Knowledge. Also coming through that race with Mellum on board. Barry number 4 will get a nice run, but very difficult to see it winning. Number 2, Buckaroo is currently $4.40 favorite. Joe Moreira sticks with this horse. He's been on board the past 2. Chris Waller trains. Always have to be aware of Waller runners in these Group 1 races, as he does win a lot of them, and his horses generally run really well coming to this races. And you don't always need to be worried. Like if one of their runners has a poor run in the run prior and been set for this race, you don't need to worry too much about that. This horse gets through the ground pretty well. Ran second on a soft 6 a couple of weeks ago behind Via Sistina. That was in the Turnbull Stakes. Up to the 2400 meters now. That's the big question mark for this horse. It's only had one run over 2400 meters in its career, which was back last preparation in a Group 1 at Rosehill, where it was in that Tancred Stakes behind Carlapore, beaten 1.8 lengths. Got back to last in that race and ran on. Got to the widest, Tommy Barry got it out to the middle of the track, ran on, and just kind of peaked on its run about 150 meters out. Feel like it did kind of peak on its run a little bit in this Flemington race, headed Via Sistina, and then Via Sistina kicked back to win there. So there is that real question mark on it over 2400. The run prior in the Underwood Stakes was super impressive, putting 3.5 lengths on Huerta to win that in dominant fashion. Just needs to stretch it to the 2400 meters. Gets a nice run from barrier number 8 in with the 54 kilos. So pretty well suited and will get its chance. That run where it did finish 5th over 2400 carried 59 there. So in much better at the weights in this race, but this is definitely a much harder race from that perspective. I do think it's a touch short at 440. Well, there's a couple of positives as well with it that I'll quickly mention. Did beat Elias last start. That horse ran 3rd in that race, sorry, here. Gets a half kilo weight swing on Elias coming into this race, so it drops 4 kilos. Elias drops 3.5 down to 53. So half kilo weight swing for a horse that it beat last start, definitely positive. The other thing, it was gelded coming into this preparation, so 5th up now, but was gelded before this first run, this prep, and is racing in career best form. So that definitely gives you the chance that it could run out the 2400 meters this time around. Of what it's done, I still have those slight reservations. Is definitely a chance. I just definitely think it's more of a $6, $6.50 chance as opposed to a $4.40 chance. So do expect it to drift out slightly. Number 3, Circle of Fire. John Allen takes a ride here. Won the Group 1 Sydney Cup at the end of last preparation by 2 lengths ahead of Athabascan. Carlapore was also in that race. This prep ran last, first up over 1600 meters, beaten 21.5 lengths behind Mr. Brightside and Pride of Jenny. And then went to the 2000 meters, beaten 6.5 lengths and behind Via Cecina, also with that Buckaroo Elias form lines. Drops down to 54 kilos. Difficult to see this horse turning the tables on Buckaroo and Elias. Probably the thing in his favor is up to the 2400. It's much better suited with that more ground, but I just don't think it's quite enough. The Sydney Cup's over 3,200 meters. Once it gets its following run or going into the Melbourne Cup after this, then I feel like it's going to be at its best. If it wins here, then it's a huge chance in the Melbourne Cup. But I think we'll need to be a dramatic improvement off last start in order to be winning. I feel like it's not quite the right time to be backing this horse, especially from barrier number 13. Things might be a little bit tough from out there. Will hit the line well, running on, that's for sure. Interestingly, that it's had 9 goes going clockwise, which you can see here for 7 placings and 3 wins. All runs going the Melbourne way. Hasn't missed a place. Hasn't run in a place in any of those 3. So that's a slight concern for it from that perspective. Warp speed, Japanese runner here. Generally, they always want firm ground, and that's probably the case with this horse, and it's not going to get it. So with that in mind, it's very difficult to see it winning, especially from barrier number 19. Not only first up in Australia, tough barrier, non-ideal conditions. Feel like is like if we got a really dry track, then probably couldn't rule it out. But with the setup, definitely does look like it's going to be everything against it in this race. Likely going to end up a long way back from that draw. That I think they're just going to have to drop right back and look to run on, and likely won't ever really be in the race. Its best form is over 2,400 meters. Had 3 of its 4 career wins have been over this distance. First time running this way as well, going anti-clockwise. But I just think just doesn't get the right setup here, and there'll be if they keep it in Australia, then there'll be better opportunities to back it on a dry track and with a better map than from barrier number 19. Number 5, Huerta, ran second behind Buckaroo in the Underwood Stakes 2 runs back. Was only first up there over the 1,800 meters. So, it wasn't a bad performance by any means. So, looked like it was in for a pretty good prep, but last start went really poorly, beating almost 10 lengths in that race. So, jury's a little bit out on it. Up to 2,400 meters probably suits it, but I feel like 2,000 meters is like its ideal distance range. And that run last start didn't, fill you with a lot of confidence. Now, especially going up to the 2,400. It's one win that it's had over this distance, which you can see here from 5 starts, was over in France, back at its 4th career start. So a long time ago, it's had 35 starts as of now. Gets a nice run from barrier number 7, but I just don't think, I can't see it improving enough to be winning. Gets through the ground okay, but needs to improve dramatically to bounce back. Also gets a negative weight swing on the key runners coming through the race last start. So it's very difficult to see it winning, even with the good map. Number 6, Warmonger, has barrier number 16. Michael D takes the ride on this horse. First up, over 1,600, ran pretty well, beating just 5.5 lengths behind Mr. Brightside and Pride of Jenny. Obviously, really, really good form lines over that mile distance. Then went to the 2,000, beating 7.7 lengths. Was caught 3 wide the trip in this race, so there was definitely excuses for it. Gets good weight relief, dropping 4 kilos from that, similar to the key chances up near the top. And third up now, up to the 2,400 meters. When it got to 2,400 meters last preparation, so in Adelaide, it had a run over 2,500 meters, running second to Coco Sun. But then went up to Queensland on a soft 6, so rain-affected track in the Group 1 Queensland Derby, and was a 10.5 length winner under 57 kilos. This is definitely a much tougher race than the Queensland Derby. However, it was super, super impressive over this distance on a rain-infected track. The 2 runs, have been okay without being great. And obviously, as I said, did have excuses. The key, obviously, is barrier number 16. If this horse had drawn barrier 10 and was likely to settle in the running line, then you could have it a major chance in this race. Barrier 16 makes things a little bit tough, but it's one that you definitely can't rule out as a chance. So it's in the shortlist as top 5 chance. Probably can't back it off just what it's done so far this prep, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised if it were to be winning this race, especially if it gets that bit of luck early through those first few hundred meters. and Michael D's able to find a spot from the barrier. Number 7, Elias. This horse has 12 starts for 9 wins. Pretty much has exclusively raced over 2,000 meters through all those 12 runs. Tries 2,400 meters for the first time. Ran a close-up third in the Turnbull last start. Drops 3.5 kilos, but does get a negative weight swing on Buckaroo, who did beat it home by 1.5 lengths in that race. And so has that ground to make up. Both horses are question marks at the distance. Elias, the concern is barrier 21 and how much work it has to do early. You not only have like the question mark over the distance, but also the question mark on how much energy it needs to use early to establish a position from that barrier. It's going to have to do a lot of work. Tim Clark comes down to the ride, and he is 3 from 3 on board this horse. With all those runs coming up in Sydney. The run last start wasn't bad, but I think it's definitely tough again. And had barrier 16 there and stuck on okay, but an extra 400 meters, and also, doing that work earlier, it's definitely one I wouldn't be able to back, especially at $7.50. So don't think it can be winning this race with the current setup that it has. Number 8, Land Legend. Zach Purden comes over, takes a ride here on this horse who won the Group 1 Metropolitan up in Sydney over this distance last start in a very close finish with Zardozi. If you watch the replay of that race, the two fought it out for the final 300 meters. They were well clear off the rest of the field. And to be honest, like it looked like Zardozi bobbed and won the race on the line, but Land Legend was able to just be in front at the right time. Zardozi was in front before and after the post. Rises 2 kilos off of that win, so gets a negative weight swing on Zardozi, who also lines up here, and it effectively is a 3 kilo weight swing with Land Legend rising 2 kilos. Zardozi drops a kilo. But you do get Zach Purden going on, replacing Reece Jones. That's a major positive for it from that perspective, and does get barrier number 1. So gets a really nice soft run from that barrier to do no work. I would expect Zach will be looking to hold the box seaters if he can. You don't want to get shuffled, 3, 4, 5 pairs back along the fence in this kind of race, especially by this stage of the day if they are wanting to get away from the inside. And if that's not the best ground to be in, that could be like the thing that's against this horse, and is going to need a really good ride and a lot of luck from barrier number 1 to be winning. Last start, like Reece Jones used Zardozi and Zach Lloyd to drag him into the race, then came widest around the bend, but was able to get a nice drag into it using that horse. With a 3 kilo weight swing, I do expect Zardozi to turn the tables. Also think Land Legend does need a dry track to perform at its best, which is not going to get here. If you go back through its form, they kind of kept this horse away from, for a horse that was running over in the UK, the fact that it only ran on one rain-affected track during that time definitely is a concern that I do have of it performing at its best on rain-affected going. With the Waller stable, definitely, got to be wary of it. Has won a St. Ledger over 2,600 meters. That was first up in Australia, but also on a good track. If we got a good track, then I'd definitely be keen and be identifying it as a major chance. But just with the setup, I think it's going to need luck from the barrier, and also may find a couple better. So it's a touch short at the 750. Young Werther, number 9. Jai McNeil rides this horse. It's currently $21. Third up now this preparation. Ran 5th behind Via Cecina, only been 2.5 lengths. So not a bad run in the Turnbull, but did have every possible chance. Was ridden absolutely perfectly there by Jai McNeil. Had the spot just in behind the speed. Got right out into clear running at the exact time. Didn't lose any momentum at all. But those Via Cecina, Buckaroo just ran straight on past. Obviously, Via Cecina on the race, but Buckaroo clearly ran straight on by. No real issue with this horse running out 2,400 meters. So definitely think that is suitable for it, but does get a negative 1 kilo weight swing on Buckaroo. So it's going to really need Buckaroo to not run out the 2,400, and it's improved now third up to be at least be beating that horse. Definitely a chance, but one that I probably can't bet. The 2400 meters, going through its form, it hasn't won over it, but has placed in three or four. The time that it didn't win the time that it didn't play, sorry, was in the 2021 Caulfield Cup. Two of those wins two of those placings were Group 3 grade, and the second was in a Group 1. Should get a nice enough run from barrier number 10, but won't get every favor that it got last start in comparison, and I don't think can be winning here at the 20s. Number 10, Duke the Sessa. Yet to win in Australia over 12 career starts, deep into its preparation. This horse likely goes forward and aims to lead them up, especially from barrier number 6. Harry Coffey should find the front fairly comfortably. Did lead the Turnbull last start. Was only beaten 2.1 lengths. Drops a few kilos from that, but hard to see it winning unless, the track is playing severely on pace. Gets through rain-affected ground, that'll definitely suit it. But has been consistently getting beaten by key rivals in Buckaroo, Hueta, and then Young Werther in its first up run this preparation where it had 61 kilos. Very difficult to see it winning, but unless, as I said, it's playing very, very on pace. Number 11, Knight's Choice. This is the roughest horse in the race, currently at 126, be well over 200 by race day. Tough draw out in barrier number 14, especially since this horse is a touch slow out of the gates. Generally, run poorly in both runs this preparation, coming through that Underwood and then Turnbull form lines. Up to the 2400 meters now, yet to win over that distance. Only had the one run at Caulfield as well. Won't spend too much time on it. It's very difficult to see it winning. Number 12, Muramasa, has won 2 Group 3 races throughout its career. However, every time it's gone to a Group 2 or Group 1 race, it's been really well outclassed. And there's only one run where it ran okay in it. Been running in easier races this preparation. First up at Moonee Valley behind Pericles, and then last up, third behind Barclay Square and Star Vega. Those two horses came out and run second and third in a Group 3 on Wednesday, just past, sorry. And I think with with Muramasa, it's just not quite at this level. It's like a genuine Group 3 kind of horse, listed Group 3 horse. But outside of that, it just gets a little bit too tough. So don't think it'll be winning. It's drawn perfectly in barrier number 5. But the other negative for it's going 1500, 1800, now to the 2400. So a big step up in distance. And with a, rain affected track, which doesn't tend to really suit it, and also, average or above average tempo, probably does get found out over the 2400. Number 13, Zardozi. Just missed behind Land Legend, which we mentioned earlier in that Group 1 Metropolitan up in Sydney. Following a nice preparation, 5th up into this, couple of runs over the 14 and then 16, then over 2000. Beaten by Elias in this race. Went at level weights. Then went to the 2400 meters last start when just missing behind Land Legend. Andre Anzini comes over to take the ride just with the 51 kilos. Barrier 12 does look ideal for this horse. Able to get out to the middle of the track, build momentum, run on strongly. Goes really well on rain affected going. Had 7 starts, 5 wins on a rain affected track. And, looking at what this horse has done, had the run over the 2400, which over these staying trips I really like to see. It's hard to see this horse not being in the finish unless it just puts in a really poor run. But with the setup that it gets, has like everything pretty much in its favor. Wide draw, stays out of trouble, builds momentum down the middle of the track. Other thing as well, has won over 2500 at Group 1 at Flemington. The only negative, I guess, is hasn't raced around Caulfield. So that's majority of all its racing has been done up in Sydney, with just a couple of runs at Flemington with a second in the Wakeful when just missing, and then the win in the Group 1, VRC Oaks. If it handles Caulfield, I think it's definitely the top chance in the race. Number 14, Coco Sun. This was on the quick backup after racing behind Denied Knowledge last week. Beaten 6.3 lengths, has a big margin to overturn that. Gets in with the 50 kilos, but loses Blake Shin. Karis Teeton comes over from Hong Kong to take the ride. it's pretty difficult to see this horse winning. Yet to place in 5 goes at Caulfield. Has run second, or has won over 2,500 meters. Sorry, I remember that race with Jamie Carr getting that Group 1 over in Adelaide where we backed it. But hasn't raced over 2,400 meters. Don't think like that'll be a big of an issue. Probably the bigger concern is where it gets to from barrier number 20 and the kind of run that it has to make in order to be winning. Last start in this race at Caulfield was under pressure early. Deny Knowledge, in fairness, like really ran them along and just kept on going. Coco Sun had a dream run along the fence just in the slipstream, but like just was under pressure 600 meters out, and with an extra 400 meters here as well. And it's not like it got under pressure early and then picked up late, suggesting that a step up in distance will suit it. Just kind of only battled away from that point. So just have those reservations here with it up to the 2,400 meters with just how it's been going this preparation. Number 15, Deny Knowledge, who was the winner of that race. Loses Mark Zahra, who rode that day. Craig Newitt jumps on board, carries only the 50 kilos. So similar to Coco Sun, drops the 7 kilos from that run, or Coco Sun drops 6. So it's a 1 kilo weight swing in favor of Deny Knowledge. So even more of a reason it's hard to see Coco Sun overturning that margin. Deny Knowledge comes into this third up off what was only a short spell, so should have plenty of fitness here leading in. Ran fifth behind Buckaroo and Hueta in the Underwood over 1,800, then dominantly won that 2,000 meter race last weekend. Then dominantly won the Minor Power Stakes last weekend over the 2,000 meters. Barry 17 goes forward from that draw, will work early. Whether it can see out the 2,400 meters is obviously the question mark. They were, taking plenty of ground off her late last start, and has that run helped set her up for this race, or is it going to affect it? I feel like it's too short at $12. Could definitely have it much longer than the current price, and would personally have it closer to the 20s range. So it wouldn't be a bet for me in this race. Number 16, Valiant King. It's had 2 runs. It's been poor in both of them over the 2,000. Gets 2,400 meters. It's had 4 goes for 2 second placings over this distance. Barrier 18 makes things tough. It's very difficult to see it producing a run good enough to win this race from that barrier. Well beaten in the Viacina Buckaroo race by 7 lengths. And then up in Sydney, beaten 14 lengths by Elias on a good track. Rain affected going does suit it. All its best runs are on soft and heavy tracks. Just don't think it's going well enough to feature at all in this race, especially from that barrier. Number 17, Positivity, 4th up this preparation. Got into this race by winning the Group 3 Foundation race back here at Caulfield over 2,000 meters. Went to the 2,500 in the Bart Cummings last start and was beaten 2.4 lengths. You can definitely forgive this race. Just fine, led all the way to win, which isn't something you see a lot of over this kind of distance range. Positivity drew barrier 13 off 13 that day, dropped back, was 3 wide through the bend, and made a run, out into the middle of the track late. Now back to the 2,400. It's definitely going to have that fitness grounding, and is a very small chance of the horses that are around that $40, $50 mark. This is probably one where you can make a little bit of a case for them, just because of the fact that it did win over 2,000, albeit was only by 0.1 of a length. This was a race where it was a 4-horse go. Harry Coffey had this horse in the box seat, slid through, and as the 4 horses hit the line, it was the one that stuck the neck out. But you can forgive this last start in a Group 3. Now needs to go to a Group 1, gets in with 50 kilos. So in on the minimum, but, not a great deal of weight relief compared to 54 in a Group 3. Also, just don't know if Winona Costin's the ideal jockey booking for a race like this, especially from barrier 9. This horse is going to be between runners, needing to push out. So those are the negatives, but you can forgive the last run. Probably will run out the 2,400 meters strongly. It probably is around in that top 10, top 8, but probably won't be winning. But, there are some positives, is my point here for that runner. Number 18, Sadati. This horse having its first start in Australia. It's coming off a 79-day spell, so not too bad leading into this. On rain affected going is a little bit of a concern. It's another one of these European runners that hasn't had much form on rain affected tracks. Um, does bring the best European form though to this race. This run here over the 2,400 meters at Epsom, this one of the bigger races over in the UK, was a $51 chance and did finish fifth, beating 7.5 lengths. But City of Troy, who won that race, did put a margin on them in the 6 lengths back to third. And City of Troy has had 7 starts for 6 career wins. So he is one of the top line stayers over in the UK. And Sadati has that form line through it. Both of its last 2 starts were over the 2,400 meters. Ben Thompson rides in on the minimum with 50 kilos and barrier number 2, so does absolutely no work from that barrier. So it is very well suited. There's like a ton of positives for it. Should be able to hold a forward position from that barrier as well. And, if this horse does fire first up with the Mars stable, they generally get their stayers right. Is definitely a chance and could have it shorter than the $15. Would prefer to see how it parades on the day to see, how it kind of turns up. But, on Thursday when I'm recording this, is one that I am definitely wary of with the run that it's kind of get and the overseas form that it does bring in. These kind of races are generally always won by like overseas runners coming in, especially like the Caulfield Cup. But it's one that I'm just, keeping my eye on as definitely potential chance. So it's the last of the 18 horse field. The other 3 runners are all emergencies. So of the field, the runners that I feel like are genuine winning chances, I'll go through them in no particular order. Buckaroo, if it runs out the 2,400 meters, it's definitely a chance, but is too short at $4.40. Warmonger, if it gets in from the barrier, then could definitely improve enough to be winning this race over the 2,400. I think Elias has its work cut out from barrier 21. Land Legend will need a lot of luck from barrier number 1. Then we have Zardozi, should get every possible chance to be winning. It's one where a lot of the lines line up for it. And then Sadati is the overseas runner who gets the best setup coming to this race. But you want to kind of see how it turns up and just with the slight condition question mark on the conditions. So that's how I'm looking at approaching the Caulfield Cup. Remember, just because it's like a huge race doesn't mean you need to have a huge bet onto it. You want to follow a staking strategy that allows you to profit consistently and not go for like a big win on a particular day or just on a particular race. So for me personally, in the racing show, we only ever outlay a maximum of 2 units on any single runner. And this is what removes that variance and allows you to consistently profit. And after watching this video, you're seeing how by approaching each race with this analysis, eliminating horses, then determining which ones you want to back, then definitely check out the racing show. Right now, coming up to the Caulfield Cup, we also have the Everest coming up on Saturday, and then about 2.5 weeks away from the Melbourne Cup, I've set up a special promotion for new members who join from now until Melbourne Cup Day, that if we don't profit in your first month, then you get your next month added to your membership completely free. So you have nothing to lose. Over the past 3 years, we've averaged 40 units profit. You can go through onto the website. Over the last 3 years, we've averaged just under 40 units profit per month. You can go onto the website through the link in the description, go through all the results. You can go through, click this button and go through and look at every single runner that we've ever backed when that spreadsheet loads. Just give it a minute to load. So you can go through, or I think it's getting close to 5,000 different bets. Generally averages about 30 to 35 at most bets per week, depending on how many meetings. Next week we have, so if you join this week, you not only get this Saturday, but you also get Wednesday, Friday night, and Saturday all next week, because we've got 3 meetings that I'm going to be covering next week as well. And also in the racing show, you don't just get all the selections, you also get a video preview going through all the races that I'm betting into and breaking down in similar fashion, just a little bit more condensed, that's for sure, of the runners that I'm backing and any potential dangers, because we'll go through in those videos. I go through the runner I'm backing and why I think it's going to win, and if there's a danger in that race, I'll also mention who that is and why. And then I'll also quickly touch on other races that I looked closely at and decided not to bet into and what those reasons were. So you get a video preview for this or like this for every Wednesday, Friday night, and Saturday meeting that we're betting into. So if you're keen on making money betting on horse racing, definitely check out the racing show. You have that profit guarantee. And also in the racing show, we also have 100 unit yearly guarantee profit. So if you don't make 100 units over the course of a year, so for a $50 better, that's $5,000 profit, then you get an entire year free as well. So you will qualify for that. So definitely click the link in the description, set up your account. All the plays for Saturday will be sent out by 5 p.m. on Friday afternoon. So hope to see you inside. Really appreciate you guys watching this video as well. Hopefully it was helpful with your analysis of not only the Caulfield Cup, but also with strategies you can apply to all other runners. Have a great weekend. Good luck with your bets, and I'll be back with more videos like this soon.